I'm very pleased to welcome everyone today, starting with Indonesian Ambassador to the U.S. and Minister of Trade Lutfi, who's been our friend for many years now, Acting Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs, and concurrently Ambassador to Indonesia, the Honorable Sung Kim, and all USINDO members and participants today in this farewell event for Ambassador Lutfi, to honor him and to transition to a new period of cooperation with him during his tenure as Minister of Trade, which is actually the second time he's occupied that position. So it must agree with him. I just want to say first that our sense of loss of you here, Ambassador Lutfi, is great. It is made only slightly more bearable when we take into account the opportunity to work with you in your new role, but we will really miss you, President in Washington. When we consider our two special guests today, Ambassador Lutfi to the US and Ambassador Kim to Indonesia, there's some striking similarities. It's quite remarkable that each one served only for a few months in their new posts before being asked to take on additional or other urgent needs for their governments. If I were a betting man, I probably could have gotten odds of 100 to 1 on something like this happening. But actually, thinking about it, it's because both of them have such outstanding qualities recognized by their governments, and the challenges are so important that their governments actually needed them in two places at once. Today, we have an overwhelming number of attendees showing the wish to join in this tribute to Ambassador Lutfi and anticipation of working together going forward. They include our USINDO board and board of advisors, corporate members, friends, members of USINDO, friends, government officials, but also other key players and regular citizens interested in the success of the US-Indonesia relationship and the activities that bind our countries together. It's impossible for me to mention them all, but I would mention particularly, in addition to Ambassador Kim, Richard Atkerson, Freeport McMoran's global CEO, representatives of Caterpillar, ConocoPhillips, BP, and Boeing, Acting Undersecretary of Commerce Diane Farrell, NSC Advisor for Asia Henrietta Levin, several officials of the Departments of State, Energy, USTR, and DOD, and other agencies. Former US Ambassador to Indonesia, Joe Donovan, Bob Blake, and Scott Marcial, all part of the hallowed tradition of great US ambassadors to Indonesia. Bob Blake, if you're on the line, I invite you to give your remarks. Are you? No, Bob's outdoors. I think he had trouble with the connection. Ambassador Kim, I will now invite you as State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs and Ambassador to Indonesia to give your remarks. Ambassador Kim, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Ambassador Merrill. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my great honor to be with you all today to bid farewell and honor my good friend, Ambassador Lutfi. I also want to welcome my colleagues from other U.S. government agencies participating this afternoon, including officials from USTR, DFC, DOD, NSC, Commerce, as well as representatives from the academic and business communities. This robust representation is a testament to the strength and prospect of our strategic partnership with Indonesia, and of course, a clear reflection of Ambassador Lutfi's impressive diplomatic reach. Fortunately for us, Ambassador Lutfi, this is not a final farewell, since you will be continuing to serve as Minister of Trade in Jakarta. We look forward to working together to build on your good efforts in Washington to strengthen US-Indonesia economic ties. I personally look forward to joining you back in Jakarta as soon as my stint in Washington ends. Now more than ever, robust cooperation with Indonesia is critical for rebuilding our economies and for building a brighter and safer future for the Indo Pacific. To date, the United States has provided more than $20 million in COVID-19 assistance to Indonesia, and we have pledged $4 billion to the COVAX facility, that Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi is co-chairing. As the largest contributor to COVAX, we were pleased to see Indonesia receive its first shipment of 1.1 million vaccines via the COVAX facility earlier this month. And understand Indonesia is expecting a second shipment this week. Looking ahead, we remain committed to strengthening our bilateral trade and investment relationship. Increased US investment in Indonesia is central to that goal. We look forward to working with you, Mr. Ambassador, in your role as Trade Minister to advance Indonesia's efforts to liberalize market access, reduce barriers to trade and investment, particularly in the digital, healthcare, and education sectors. And I know US firms remain eager to partner with Indonesian counterparts on sustainable infrastructure and energy, particularly renewable energy, as we all seek to increase our efforts to address climate change. In this regard, I'm pleased to say that the US International Development Finance Corporation, or DFC, now has an office in the US Embassy in Jakarta dedicated to the Indonesian market. We also look forward to expanding our trade ties, including through renewed trade and investment framework agreement talks this year. I know our colleagues at USTR will continue to work very hard with you and your team on the implementation of key reforms in the digital, agriculture, and service sectors, as agreed under the GSP Market Access Review concluded last October. Finally, I believe that climate change, while posing a tremendous challenge to the international community, also presents opportunities for increased cooperation and collaboration. And this is especially true for the United States and Indonesia. Next month's Leaders Climate Summit will provide a unique opportunity to showcase the many ways in which our two countries and global partners can work together to address the threat of climate change. So, Mr. Ambassador, there's a lot of exciting and important opportunities for our two countries' cooperation, and I look forward to continuing to work together to strengthen the US-Indonesia strategic partnership. Best wishes on your travel home, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador and Assistant Secretary Kim. Ambassador and Minister Lutfi, I now invite you to give us your thoughts on the eve of your return to Indonesia. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Ambassador Merrill. Thank you, Ambassador Sung Kim, for a very nice introductions. I also like to thank you all the members and board member of USINDO. I saw that a lot of representations from DOD, from DOS, Department of Commerce, DFC maybe, a lot of good friends, and of course, ambassadors that been previously served in Jakarta, Ambassador Donovan, Ambassador Blake, Ambassador Marshall. I really appreciate all the friendships that have been given to me. It's not too long ago, actually, we had this formal meeting to welcome me back in Washington, D.C. And it feels like time goes so fast. And I felt like I was sent to Washington, D.C. just to take care and fix the residence at Tilden Street. Now it's fixed and it's time for me to go home. And it's only, I think I broke my Ambassador Mahendra's record by quite a few months. And it's very hard to say, but I have to bid my farewell much earlier than I thought it would be. The reason I came here, Ambassador Merrill, is to make sure that I can bring my wife back, because she basically refused to go back to Jakarta and would like to stay a little longer in Washington, D.C. But tell you the truth, since I came here back in September 2020, I think our challenge for the future, it's getting tougher and it's not getting easier. I saw a couple of things that is very important for not only for Indonesia, but also for the United States and the rest of the world. The problem of COVID-19, I think it's still an issue, still a problem, still a homework, and needs to be resolved. And I think we need to have a more cohesive mitigations, not only by one country at a time, but it has to be a multinationals, multi-countries tackling this issue. If the world is about 7.7 billion people, in order to get herd immunity, we need 5.5 billion people to be vaccinated. It will do no good for one country to have vaccinations of all the people in that country, but not have other countries the vaccine, because we live in one global value chain. We travel together, we mix together, we move together in order to get a movement in economy as well. So this is what we're facing in Indonesia. We have 270 million people. In order to get herd immunity, we need to vaccinate around 188 million people, or 70% of that 270 million people. Out of that 188 million people, we probably don't have to do all of them, because of the people that already got the COVID-19 and with the comorbid, people that have a health issue that cannot take the vaccine. So we calculated around 181 million people in Indonesia needs to get vaccinated, because we exclusively takes all the vaccines that have 2 doses. That means we need to have 360 million doses to get herd immunity in Indonesia. And with the cold chain becoming very difficult for countries like Indonesia, we have east to west, or more than 3,700 miles with 17,000 islands, people everywhere, and some parts of Indonesia, the electrification is not stable yet. Cold chain becoming a challenge as well. So because of that, we need a wastage of another 15% on top of the 360 million people, 360 million doses, I mean. So then we need around 426 million doses to vaccinate Indonesian people altogether. From those numbers, we already had about 15 million today, and or immediately in the near future, and we will finish all the vaccinations for Indonesians by the first quarter of 2022. This is a very extensive effort, and probably one of the best one of the most robust in the world for populations that big, that wide of a geography that needs to be covered. But at the same time, we already heard from our Chinese counterpart, because a lot of these vaccines come from Sinopharm and Sinovac, that maybe in the next year, or maybe less than a year, maybe 6 months, that Indonesians need to have another vaccinations, because the efficacy is around 6 to 8 months. That means next year we have to do all of this all over again. So this is not an end to an endeavor, but it's actually a start of a fight that we're going to fight together in a long, long time. Because of that, we also see that how the world is going to end this COVID-19. So like I said, 5.5 billion people needs to be vaccinated to get herd immunity in the world. And 2 shots mean 11 billion doses needed to vaccinate the whole people in the world. But we also calculate the facility, how much facility that we can do in order to get this herd immunity from COVID-19. We calculated that 6 billion facility in the whole world that can be done for this vaccine, but only 3 billion can be allocated for COVID-19. That means we need around at least 3.5 to 4 years to vaccinate the whole world. And even then, we have to redo that probably in the next 12 months thereafter. So this is a challenge. And we saw in 2020, the race, the fight for vaccine, it's just basically one country's effort. And there is no mitigations how to do this together. And if it was a financial crisis in 2008, where every countries in the world gathered together to try to solve the world's problems, this time we're doing it by ourselves. And right now it shows that doing it by ourselves will do no good unless every countries get vaccinated as well, because we are part of one global value chain. That is the one problem that I'm seeing, that probably a big homework for the whole world, but definitely for Indonesia and the United States to collaborate together. Second part is the issue of China. Indonesia and China is one of our biggest trading partner, as much as with the United States. With the Chinese, Indonesia had a deficit about $7 billion in 2020 for the trade, and with the United States, we have a surplus around 10 billion US dollars. But both countries are very important trading partner for Indonesia. We saw what had happened in Anchorage, and we saw how steady and how strong the United States stand. You know, it reminds me a lot of what had happened back in the 60s, early 60s, when a summit meeting between President Kennedy and President Khrushchev. This is also an illustration. I like when the United States say that, you know, the United States will collaborate in our cooperations, will compete in the competitions, but then, you know, will be staying strong if there's have to be a fight. But for Indonesia, a fight, a war, or a confrontations in the region is not helping the country. It's not helping the region. Definitely, it's not good for the citizen of Asia, because this century, this time is the century of Asia, and this is the time for Indonesia to progress and to create prosperity for the people. This is the time for the ASEAN to create prosperity for the people. And also this is the time for the Asians to create the prosperity for the people as well. If there was a war, and will be an opportunity gone by because of that. So the situation today is not helping us to have a confrontations. So Indonesia will try to break through this situation, this impasse, with a dialogue. Because with a dialogue, we can create more understanding, and understanding is probably the best medicine to break the misunderstanding and also creating less tension between the two countries. So, you know, we need also the leadership of the United States on trade, on economics, on politics, on diplomacy, on in security, and also in dialogue. Because without this comprehensive understanding, dialogue cannot be created. Understanding cannot be resulted from this impasse. So we're looking forward to see a breakthrough from the United States. Right now, I told my counterpart, especially in business sectors, in the first 6 weeks of the administrations, we're hearing a lot of sound bites, but there is no carrots yet. We see some sticks, but we have not seen carrots. And this is something probably a dialogue between ASEAN, between the regions and the United States are very, very important. Not next year, not tomorrow, but probably yesterday. That's how important this discussions needs to be. The third issue that I'm seeing is getting more difficult also about climate change. We see the determinations of the United States in leading back for the progress of climate change. Indonesia is also doing the same thing. We are also facing a lot of problems in preserving our climate, our environment. In the same times, we have to progress also economically. We have to see two issues in this climate change. First is how Indonesia electrify the country, because without electrifications, we cannot see movement in economic creation, in economic value to start fighting poverty. At the same time, also Indonesia is the largest producer of crude palm oil. We've been chopped by a lot of countries being not sustainable, deforestations, which is not true. You know, Indonesia is not very good in telling the world on how good, how is our commitment to our deforestations and our commitment for climate change. We are taught since kids that we're not supposed to show off what we've done, but let the people see what we have progressed. This is a culture as well for telling everyone the truth. And this is also something that we're trying to get a narrative so Indonesia can be seen as part of the climate change defender, not the climate change offender. We're trying to do this as much as we can. At the same time, we need to progress also in our economic activity to make sure that we're fighting poverty. And then this is one of the base for our democratizations as well. So climate change, Indonesia is very committed, but at the same time, we need also the help, the assistance. We cannot be excommunicated from the world economy because what's something that is not true. And this is something that we would like to tell the world, that Indonesia is responsible. Indonesia will be the defender of climate change. And the fourth one is the situation in the region. In the last couple of months, we saw what had happened in ASEAN, one of ASEAN member country in Myanmar. This is an issue that we've seen. This is not the first time. We've seen this over and over again, issue with Myanmar. The situation with the Rohingya people and the one before democratizations in 2014. Indonesia is part of ASEAN. Indonesia would like to lead the discussions within ASEAN and outside of ASEAN. But at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, we also cannot be put in one basket of ASEAN and be seen by the United States as an ASEAN problem. Because if that happens in the next 3-4 years, we will be toying on something is not very productive. We have other issues, just not more than just a situational in the region. We need to progress. We have to have a good dialogue in ASEAN. We need to have a security in the region. We have to be able to progress economically in the region, so then we can create a prosperity for the region. And that's probably one of the recipe. So then we can further progress with the other economics or political agenda with diplomacy in the region as well. These are my worries, Ambassador Merrill, that I'm going to go home from Washington. And I have to say my successor jobs in Washington, D.C. will be much, much harder than the one I had in the last probably first 2 months of my duty here in Washington. I hope this issue that I just mentioned to you will be a common denominators of our cooperations in the future. I don't want Indonesia to be put in ASEAN baskets, and because ASEAN have some problems with its member, then Indonesia becoming a problem for the United States. I don't want climate change issue becoming a sticking point in the relationship of the countries, because this is actually a common denominator, because Indonesia is committed for climate change. China, Indonesia stand very tall in the region. We share common norms and common values, big open democracy. We uphold the rule of law. We guarantee the freedom to speak and freedom to choose. Therefore, that Indonesia should stand hand by hand with the United States in the region to make sure that democratizations, rule of law, and freedom to speak and freedom to choose stands for all members in the regions as well. And also COVID-19. There is no more common effort more important, because because if we don't fight this the spread of COVID-19, there is no economic growth, and without economic growth, there is no fighting of poverty. These four should be a common denominators for our relationships in the future, maybe in the short and medium terms, but definitely will be part of our problems, and our problems to take care, our problems to work together. Thank you, Ambassador Merrill.
Thank you, Ambassador Lutfi, and I think you made everyone's point that you're an accomplished diplomat, very deeply accomplished diplomat, as well as a trade minister, and it's all intertwined. And we're very pleased to hear your remarks. Bob Blake, were you able to join us, and would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me, David?
Yes.
I did want to just add my own warm thanks to you and my own very warm best wishes to you and your wife. I recall very well our first meeting when I was ambassador in Jakarta in 2014 when you were the trade minister, and you instantly agreed to receive me, and we had a wonderful, productive meeting. And I must say we've had a great friendship since then. And I'm very sorry you were here for such a short time. Just like your predecessor, Pak Mahendra. On the one hand, that's a signal that we're very fortunate to get Indonesia's best here as ambassador. I hope it's not a sign that you feel like you were not enjoying yourself in the United States. But I think you really did a lot in a very short time. You know, you concluded the renewal of the GSP. You signed some very important agreements with Exim and others to lay the basis for more American business in the United States, between the United States and Indonesia. You hosted a very important visit by Pak Luhut. And to no one's surprise, you know, your warm personality, your wife Bianca's charm, and your own experience as a graduate of Purdue, a Boilermaker, enabled you to win many, many friends for your country in the United States. And now as you take up your important duties as trade minister, we are confident you're going to continue to be a strong advocate for Indonesian-U.S. relations. You bring enormous experience to this job, both as minister, but also as ambassador to the U.S. and Japan, but also your experience in private business. So you really have a unique combination of experience that will give you a great understanding of the way forward to advance our business partnership. And I think your emphasis that you always make on how Indonesia needs to buy more in order to sell more is exactly right. And I must say, I am excited about the prospects for enhancing the strategic partnership between our two countries. You mentioned China. Secretary of State Blinken gave a very good speech at NATO 2 days ago. And he said there, you know, we're not asking our friends to choose between China and the United States. We understand that people and countries have their own important equities with China, and certainly Indonesia does, and we understand that. But we also understand that there are great opportunities to seize, and that's why Secretary Kerry, our climate envoy, made an early call with Pak Luhut to talk about climate change opportunities. And that's why the Biden administration is going to be prioritizing Southeast Asia and ASEAN, much more so than under the previous administration. So, of course, Indonesia, as the largest, most influential country in ASEAN, will just be pivotal for our nation. So you can count on all of us at USINDO to continue to support your important work and to support our growing partnership. And we just want to wish you the very best and thank you for all your efforts here. Thank you for your future efforts. And most of all, thank you for your friendship. Thanks again.
Ambassador, thank you. So kind of you.
Thank you, Bob. There's a facility to submit questions by the chat button, which if people would like to use it, they're welcome to do so. We have one question now. It's a little detailed. It's about the WTO. How important a priority, this is from Greg Rushford of the Rushford Report. How important a priority is it for Indonesia to help the WTO successfully conclude its negotiations to discipline government subsidies that have encouraged overfishing and environmental harm in Pacific waters? These negotiations, he says, have been dragging along for more than 2 decades. Has Indonesia thought about this, or would Indonesia be willing to take a look at this to bring a sense of urgency to this issue? And then we have another question after that, I see.
Who asked the questions, Ambassador?
This is from Greg Rushford, a member of USINDO, who publishes a report, the Rushford Report.
Well, I've been briefed by my staff, and we had a small WTO meeting on the site of World Economic Forum in Davos, which this year was done through Zoom, Ambassador. And the president of the Federation of Swiss actually invited us to speak on the site and about WTO reform and about the fishery subsidy. The issue of subsidy never been a fan from developing countries like Indonesia, because there's no way that Indonesia can compete, or there's no way that we can create a fair trade out of subsidy. And we, like any other subsidy, this is something that developing countries like Indonesia needs to stand up and make sure that we have a level, equal playing field, so then we can trade together nicely and fairly in that instance. So this is like any other trade, like any other subsidy in a trade. It's not always a good story. So we stand very firm that we don't want a subsidy to impede trade, but at the same time, we would like to have this conclusions of this as soon as possible. I hope that fair trade will be the middle mechanism of this, and providing poverty is very important for countries like Indonesia. Thank you, Ambassador.
Question from Mike Anderson, one of our members. Ambassador Lutfi, do you believe the U.S. should and will return to the TPP?
Well, this is something that I mentioned about having a lot of having carrots and stick. It will be a nice gesture, I think, for the region to have the United States coming back in a multilateral or in a regional trade agreement that will also give some incentive for Indonesia to take a look as well. But I don't know, my knowledge about Washington DC is very shallow. I was just here for 3 months. I don't know, but I would welcome some kind of a move right there, and hopefully that United States can come back and open up more markets in the region.
Thank you. This is from Jeff Borda, a member. Given the trajectory of Indonesia over the past few years with regard to investment and trade policies and the development of the economy, what do you see as the most important principles or policies that will create the best conditions for a level playing field for trade and investment? I think you started on this in your remarks, but if you have further thoughts, we would like to hear them.
Well, there are a couple of things. I'm not quite sure, but the trajectory of Indonesian investment and trade is very clear. The trajectory in investment this year, growth will have to be around 14%, and in trade more than 5%, and 4% for export and 2% for import, and also the consumptions needs to grow by 5%. So those are the trajectory that we have. With that, that means Indonesia needs to open up more to have the trajectory of high trajectory for investment. We just issued an omnibus law basically to streamline all paperwork for investment, making sure that Indonesia will be competing very well with the surrounding countries and any other countries in the world. We also, like I said, because we need to growth both in export and import, we're making sure that we want to sell more because we want to buy more, and in the consumptions as well. So Indonesia right now, economy is very connected with the rest of the world. I mentioned this morning on my talk with engagement with the US ASEAN Business Council, and also with US Chamber, that Indonesia needs to sell more, but at the same time we realize that we have to buy more as well. So these are some principle that we want to do to have this high trajectory. You know, we have a very aggressive economic target this year. We would like to grow about 5 to 5.5%, and this needs to have a lot of reform in order to have sustainable growth for the economy of the country. Thank you.
Ambassador, former Ambassador Joe Donovan says, let me join with others in wishing that you could have spent more time in Washington. At the same time, we're not saying goodbye. I'm sure you will continue to be a strong advocate for U.S.-Indonesia relations in Jakarta. And he goes on to ask the following: I agree with you that economic recovery is not possible until we handle COVID together. But when that happens, what sectors of Indonesia's economy do you think would recover the fastest?
Well, right now, what we have to come back, and we have to look, you know, at our strength and our core for growth. So for trade, for example, we look at our with our trade partners, out of 10, you know, out of 20, which one is recovering well from COVID. So we look, you know, we have some numbers that is very promising, including the United States, China, even India. But at the same time, we have countries like Pakistan, the one not doing so well with the vaccinations. Bangladesh is still having a problem. They are one of our biggest trading partner. But you know, if I may say, which sector that needs to be fixed right away, especially in the short terms. We had two sectors that we're taking care of and taking off. We give incentive actually. One is for our market or for our consumer confidence to start buying again, at least for two things. That is automotive industries and also with our property. So an incentive has been deployed. You know, the luxury tax on those two items will come to zero, and probably a bit further as a discount. But this is something that we want to do. But in the medium terms, you know, Ambassador, the one sector that I think has done even during COVID-19 is digital economy. Our digital economy will be, you know, it's been showing some resilience during COVID-19. So our digital economy today is consisted of one marketplace. You know, we're standing very firm, and the growth even compared to 2019 to 2020, the growth is 814%. Our marketplace had grown about 9 times from 2017 to 2020 by the prediction of the number of 2021, 9 times bigger compared to 2017. Our rate of growth in the region for marketplace digital economy is higher than that is of China, even in the United States. You know, with only 58% of our people connected through cellular and digital telephones. So, you know, I think this will be one subject, one area that Indonesia probably will do better than most in the near future. And will also be added by the development of education technology based on digital, and also with healthcare. this will come next to after what we've seen today. There is marketplace, there is entertainment vis-a-vis movies, Netflix, etc. And then also with ride hailing, something like Gojek for United States, probably closer to Uber, and also payment system that is already happening right now. So this is the first wave. Indonesia created 4 unicorn and 1 decacron. But also for the second wave, we're expecting that Indonesia will probably will grow very, very fast in those 2 waves. And we're looking for a lot more the United States investment. This is one of probably my top priority when I was, if I was still here, to connect between Jakarta and Silicon Valley. The opportunity is tremendous, and we're looking forward to see a lot more involvement by the United States company.
Thank you. We have 2 questions that deal with the status of Indonesia's plans to move its capital city from Jakarta to Kalimantan. First of all, in general, is that move on hold or still a priority? Is it been returned to some kind of schedule? That's the general part. The more specific part of the question from Ted Fishman, a member, is it true that the new capital city, that the government aims to make it a carbon neutral city? And if so, do you see opportunities for American firms that offer smart grid tech, green building materials, and renewable energy tech to play a role in the development of the new capital city?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but when I spoke to you first back in September,
right.
The reason that Indonesia have the desire to move the capital city, it's not because of politics, not because of anything, but the necessity to do it. Why? Because in 2045, it's been predicted that the city of Jakarta and the city of Bandung will become one extremely megapolitan city. Why is that? Because it's just the growth is there, and that city will have 75 million people. This is probably one of the biggest city by 2045 in the world, and there's a lot of challenge to have a city like that. How to electrify it, how to taking care of the waste from the city, the urban planning, especially the transportations. This is a lot of challenge in that. And Indonesia would like to have a showcase on what a smart city can be. So the requirement of a new capital city is because we have to move somewhere in order to have a nice capital city that just for the government. And the idea for this new city is a smart city, environmental friendly, hopefully will be carbon neutral, depending on how we're gonna finance the city itself. But this is something we would like to do, and we probably have to do, not later, but probably sooner. And this is something that Indonesia has been trying to do. And if you look at our budget to fight this COVID-19, so far we probably could have built 2 capital cities right now with our budget that we allocated to fight COVID-19 just in 2020 and 2021. This is a this is a big endeavor for Indonesia to fight this COVID-19. Otherwise, we would have got the city very nicely along the way. But if you ask me, is this still there? The priority? The priority is there because we just have to. And then when? Probably sooner than later. And right now, people in the government is still looking at this opportunity. But at this time, like any other resources, it's very scarce, and we have to allocate one at a time toward our priority. And our priority today is to fight the COVID-19. Once it's under control, I'm pretty sure that the government will look back at the opportunity, the first opportunity to come back and develop the development of the capital city.
And American firms in these
Well,
smart.
the American firms are very
really
welcome
important.
because this is the city itself. It has to be a joint venture. I mean, this have to be a joint effort between private and government, and because simply we cannot develop this by ourselves with our own budget, because we just simply don't have a sufficient resource to do so.
No, thank you. I would add as well that we, as you know, USINDO is heavily involved in education, and some of the universities we've been in touch with want to connect with, I guess, your Ministry of Planning or the appropriate ministry to offer support in regional and urban planning. So I just convey that to everyone now. If anybody wants to follow up on that, I'm happy to do it. The question we have from Wayne Forrest of the AICC New York on a specific product. Lutfi, we have seen a surge of herbal products coming to the US imported by AICC members. Indonesia has 95% of the market for one of these, which is called kratom, the leaf of a tree that has palliative and analgesic qualities. Are you aware of this product and the need for American firms to work closely with your ministry to create a sustainable supply chain?
Can you repeat what was that again, Ambassador?
The product is there's a product called kratom, which is the leaf of a tree that has medicinal qualities. Wayne Forrest says that there are a lot of American companies who want to import that product from Indonesia. Perhaps that's enough just to convey that. But if you're aware of that product,
I'm not aware of that products, and I have to educate myself on that. But thank you, Mr. Forrest. I hope you're well.
And I think we have one final one, which is also pretty detailed. In your future role as Minister of Trade, this is from the Department of Commerce, USG. In your future role as Minister of Trade, how involved will you be with the implementation of the new halal law? Can you provide any specifics on how the halal law will affect trade with the US?
Well, the halal law is still being discussed in the parliament right now as we speak. But one thing that I know for sure, especially with the passing of the omnibus law, will be an important brand, but this is not the only thing that that people need to accomplish in order to sell in Indonesia. We would like to make sure that this is an opportunity, not a threat, for everyone to come into Indonesian market, and hopefully that my ministry will have a lot of say, or we're trying to have a lot of influence in the process to make sure that this is complementary in order to enter the Indonesian market, not an impediment, or not a threat to come into the market. So this is one promise that I will do, that from my ministry in the discussions with the parliament upon that.
I would like to have one final question directed at you. This is coming from Caterpillar, our Caterpillar member. Ambassador Lutfi, can you please provide an update on Indonesia's sovereign wealth fund and any details on the plans to begin implementing the fund's objectives, in particular in infrastructure? And I think we're all interested in that.
Well, this is the fund itself has been named, it called INA, INA, Indonesian Indonesian Infrastructure Authority, that's what it's called. And then we have two-tier funds. We have one, the umbrella fund, and we have also the thematic funds. We are transferring assets into the fund. It's not like like the honorary fund that we see with the GIC of Singapore and Temasek of Singapore, where they invest in projects. But instead, we're looking for people to invest and having these Indonesian assets that we already have and producing, and and at the same times, it creates a transparency. So then it can be operated in a world-class company, and for people to invest. And it last I think 2 days ago, the Emiratis UAE's government had to make a big commitment of $10 billion to invest in this two-tier funds. So in the thematic funds and also in the umbrella funds. So this is a breakthrough. The objective is also to create transparency, to create an efficiency also in the process. So then the infrastructure we can build even more. And because infrastructures, like I mentioned to you, this is one of the ways for Indonesia to get out of the middle income trap. I think the Minister of State-Owned Enterprise with the Sovereign Wealth Fund team will come through Washington, and I'll make sure that Ambassador Merrill, that they make a one stop at USINDO, so that the members can be briefed of what they're doing. And as we speak right now, they're finalizing all the administrations, and it should go out no later than April of 2021.
Well, we're very grateful for that because there's a tremendous interest in this fund and the efforts so far to start it. And I think that's going to intensify in the next year. Let me close the program now and just say that Ambassador Lutfi, Ambassador Kim, and all the other participants, how much we thank you for your participation in today's program, and especially to Ambassador Lutfi, who we will miss. But it sounds to me like this is a beginning, as it was said in a famous movie, this is a beginning of a beautiful new friendship. And we look forward to working with you in your new capacity. Thank you. And thank you all.
Thank you.